Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. Today, I have a special guest joining us who is going to talk all about brain allergies. Such an important conversation, really interesting, because if you think about it, if your brain is not right, your life is not right. So, Dr. Sabina De Vita is joining us today to share an incredible amount of knowledge, but also her personal experience going through illness and learning and discovering a whole new world that she was unaware of, that was now able to take her to a point where she could study, learn, and now teach, but also to heal. And it's all about taking care of our body. So this hour is going to be so informative. I want you to stay, and you don't want to miss any bit of it. So let's say hello to Dr. Sabina De Vita. Dr. Sabina is the owner of DeVita Wellness Institute of Living and Learning, and she's also founder and director of the Institute of Energy Wellness Studies. And by the way, she's also an 8-time author, so a wealth of knowledge that she is here today to share with us. And I'd like to say, welcome, Dr. DeVita. So great having you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Tania, for your warm welcome. I appreciate that very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I'm so excited to delve into your story and also your expertise and really studying brain allergies. I know that you did your dissertation on brain allergies and the connection between the psychological and emotional impact of what those allergies do to the body and our cognizant function. It's so interesting because a lot of people realize that, or they've experienced having maybe, moments of not remembering something, or, that brain fog, so to speak, that they say. But I don't think a lot of people really sort of piece the puzzle together to understand the cause of that and the many causes of brain allergies and, our environment, of course, and the foods that we ingest. So I'd love to delve into, first of all, what is brain allergies?
Well, that's a fabulous question to start with because it is, of course, so broad and it does encompass a lot of different symptoms. And I think the most important is for me to just tell a little bit about my symptoms and how I discovered that and then how I delved into it further. So what I discovered was that I had some sensitivities and allergies, and I think many people, many listeners on the call can probably relate to that. There might be an hives or itch or sneezing or watery eyes.
Runny nose.
Exactly. So my sensitivities went further. What I discovered that I started to experience more fatigue, and that's an often very common reaction. For example, I would eat something and then all of a sudden I'd feel very tired. Well, that's unusual because then I would want to sleep. And it went further. I would have the same type of symptom or reaction to something I was exposed to. So while driving, for example, and this of course was many years ago, I would be driving and I was reacting to the fumes, the car fumes. And again, I would become extremely sleepy to the extent where I had to literally drive off to the side of the road, close my eyes, and have a snooze. So that's the extent. So obviously it was disturbing my brain. And I experienced more and more severity with those types of reactions, even mood swings. Be happy like we're talking now and then eat something and then all of a sudden I would be crying.
Wow.
Mood
After
swings.
eating something. Interesting. Now, did it take you a while to really piece that it was connected with the food intake, or was it quite obvious to you that you'd start to feel symptoms after eating?
Yes, it became more obvious with the foods. It wasn't so obvious with the chemical reactions until they became really, I would say, right after, meaning it was quite, it was just so obvious because I was exposed to something and then I would have the reaction. To give you an example, I would step into the shower not knowing this at the time. I thought it was maybe my soap or it was the shampoo. So I stopped all of those because I would step out of the shower literally completely red as if I had a sunburn.
Wow.
And then welts all over my skin. And I thought, well, okay, it's not the soap because I've stopped using it. It must be the water. And what I discovered was that I was highly sensitive to chlorine.
Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, so that's, I mean, when you start to realize that, I mean, it's kind of a scary thought because you're exposed to water constantly. And how do you function daily, maintain your health, but also live in the environment that we live in?
Correct. And so those kinds of severities in term and the amount of reactions became more evident to me because they were environmental pollutants. It was off-gassing from substances or materials in my home, curtains, carpets. So of course I had to get rid of all of that just from the off-gassing. And what I discovered later was that the substances, these materials, were made out of certain chemical compounds. Plastics, for example, was a very common one that I was reacting to. So even wearing nylons, I would react to itchy skin. That was very obviously quite evident. But again, it came back to what would happen to my brain. And that's why I became quite fascinated in the area of brain allergies and brain sensitivities, because these were anomalies. This was not the typical allergen that people are, I guess, used to hearing. This is something that we don't talk about.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's almost like opening up, a whole new world. We all know allergies, or food sensitivities, but it's, the typical allergens, but not how it actually affects the brain. So really interesting. And we'll talk a little bit more, about some of the symptoms, so people can understand and recognize potentially, if they are suffering from a brain allergy. But, I want to delve a little bit deeper into some of the things that you are talking about, experiencing for yourself and the fear that must have accompanied all of that. I mean, even, driving and experiencing that fatigue. Did you find that caused you to not want to drive, or were you fearful of that? Like, how did it affect your day-to-day living? How did it affect your day-to-day, knowing that having a shower is going to cause welts on the body, and how does that impact how you live the rest of your day?
Well, fabulous question, because it was a complete change in my life. Completely. I had to actually source out. I moved. I had to move from my environment. I had to move out of at that time, my apartment and a townhouse. I had to find another environment. And so it had to be absolutely impeccably clean. So no carpets, no gas heating, curtains. I had to be very careful with. I mean, materials that were used in the home. Anything that I cleaned with was back to really simple basics, the baking soda, vinegar, and some essential oils. It was so simple. But that's the extent I had to go to in order to really heal myself. It was a total wellness journey. I'm talking about a good 4, 5, 6 years.
Wow. So, I mean, you went to, drastic measures, right? Leaving fully your environment, right? Starting new, finding a new
Exactly.
space. Now, but what about if somebody is in a situation where it's not possible for them to completely leave and, or overhaul their environment? Is there a solution for them as well, that they're able to, at least manage some of those allergies that would be, attacking the body and the brain?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Tanya, what I ended up doing as a result of my own journey was to discover ways that I could help other people. Because obviously, not everyone can do what I had to do. So during that process, I discovered that there are ways and there are different, I would say, herbs, different natural substances that we all can use and we have available for us that makes a huge difference. So to give you an example, I discovered that there are filters for showers and for water systems so that we don't have to be exposed to the chlorine.
Mm. So
Right?
it's essentially, blocking that or pulling it away or, maybe.
Yes, so it's basically filtering out the chlorine,
Mhm.
some of the fluoride, so that we have a better water system. So obviously, I was able to then really guide people to, hey, this is what you can do, and these are some answers. These are solutions. So the same thing came to the cleaning agents or the soap, shampoo. Obviously, I was looking for something safe. And so when I discovered that, I was able then to share that with my clients because I then did open up a private practice and I was able to share many of what I found
Yeah, and I think
with others.
that's so beautiful because I think that so many people would be unsuspecting. You'd have no idea what is causing the symptoms, and even, something as simple as a shower. I mean, that still kind of, boggles my mind. Just a simple shower and the negative effect that it could have if you have, allergies, particularly brain allergies. So I think that education is such a key component, and I love that you are here sharing your story so that we can educate the listeners out there. Because maybe right now, someone listening at this moment is experiencing decline in their health and really not understanding some of the possible causes. And I think if you're in that situation, it's always worth listening and changing your diet, whether it's your diet or it's your environment and the things that you can do, and eliminate some of the harmful chemicals, the pesticides, whatever in our environment, that I think over time can also accumulate. Many people are experiencing allergies, even food allergies or food sensitivities, that at one time they never had an issue. And I feel that today there's so much chemical preservatives in the foods that we eat, in our environment. In the moment we step outdoors, we are exposed to environmental toxins and pollutants. And I think it's really key that we get an understanding of that so that we can, shield ourselves, have that barrier so we can maintain our health and or even actually reverse some of the damage that has been done if we can learn to see what it is that we need to eliminate, or to remove ourselves like you did from an environment that is actually just not serving you. And one of the things that came to mind, Dr. DeVita, when you were talking about your environment and what was causing some of those allergies, I started to think of mold. Because mold, highly toxic, definitely causes a lot of health issues. So, is that one of the causes, for brain allergies, and is that something that you also dealt with?
Oh, thank you for asking that. Oh, absolutely. Mold was actually a very interesting discovery because it's hidden and it's not something that we're obviously aware of, and I actually had the experience that in my kitchen, I did not know this at the time, but there was actually a slow leak in behind our sink actually, and the faucet, and there was just a slow leak. But over a period of time, I kept smelling something that was off. And I'm very careful with how I clean my. There was something, and I knew it was mold. I knew it, and of course, when it did actually reach a certain level that we had to get it actually taken apart. I mean, the whole up of mold and behind the wall. And so what I also learned out of this was the importance of really being suspect of anything in one's home. And I had another experience where it also occurred in the shower. Now, this was in another home,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the same kind of real experience of mold that's hidden. And a lot of times people don't realize that they have mold buildup. And it's easy to detect when we see these black or dark spots in the corners of, say, showers, or even in the kitchen or around the sink, around the faucets, etc. And it can show up anywhere. And, now that you've mentioned this as well, I ended up writing a book called Vibrational Cleaning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have a chapter devoted to mold.
Wow. So vibrational cleaning. And where are your books? That's one of your 8 books. Where are they available?
Yes. Yes, and it can be found on vibrationalcleaning.com,
Mm-hmm.
and also can be found with a link on my main website, DeVitaWellnessNow.com.
Perfect.
So both in both places. But I felt really compelled to write about what I had experienced, because over a period of years, what I experienced and saw with my clients. Now, I had opened up a small practice, and what was interesting, Tanya, I didn't have to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
People
Really?
had heard of me, and they just started to phone and said, I'd like an appointment with you. And I think really, truly what it came down to was that I was investigating people's illness, particularly with any type of mental disorder, from a very different perspective. It wasn't just, here, go and get yourself assessed by a psychiatrist and get on a pill. No, let's look at your environment. Let's look at what you're eating.
And I love that, because the thing is that I think so many people came to you because they saw your experience, and then it's not just they're not just a number. They're not told that it's all in your head, it's psychosomatic, and get over it, right? So I think there's that real connection through your personal experience, which is so invaluable. Now we're going to continue and delve into your experience with your clients, and how you've helped them. And we're going to learn as well, some of the ways that we can today help ourselves at home through looking at our environment and more. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back here on Sauga 960. You're listening to The Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, and we will be back with Dr. Sabina De Vita. Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor Sauga 960. I'm Tania Kolar, and today we are talking about brain allergies. Yes, I said brain allergies. I know we've all heard of allergies, but specifically brain allergies and the effect that actually has on the psychological and emotional life. We're going to talk all about that with Dr. Sabina De Vita, who is my special guest here today. So obviously, Dr. Sabina DeVita has a wealth of knowledge on the topic, but also personal experience. Before we took a break, Sabina opened up about her life and her experience of battling illness, environmental toxins and pollutants, the chemicals in her home, where she actually had to physically remove herself from her environment, start fresh in a space that was more conducive to her health. And also taking that knowledge, her personal experience, and now infusing that into how she is able to work with her clients and help her clients. So, Dr. Sabina, it's an absolute pleasure, of course, having you here. And I want to just dive back into the conversation and go into your world of how you started to work with your clients and some of the experiences that they were having, so people can maybe connect to that and relate to where they are today.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what I started to do is I used to at that time do little seminars and just talks about my experience. And of course, there were individuals in the audience that were thinking, obviously, oh, I think I have that problem. And so slowly, I had quite a number of calls, and my truly, it was actually amazing to me at the time, but my private practice just exploded. And I had quite a number of very highly sensitive individuals. They knew that something was off, either from their environment or from their food intake, and they wanted to find another way, another answer to their dilemma. One of the most severe cases that comes to mind, Tanya, which I think you will find fascinating, was an individual. He was a young man who actually, the mother contacted me and she said, I think you can help my son. He is in the psychiatric hospital. He's not getting help. And I know he has many problems with digestion. I would like you to see him. So I said, sure. I obviously, brain allergies. This is what I've been focused on. So literally, she had to assist him. He could not walk on his own. He was just so confused. He was literally ungrounded when I saw him. And so on that, and I remember that first interview. Of course, I went through his diet. There were so many things that we changed. Okay. And also with the chemicals that he was exposed to. And a lot of times people don't even think of this. Underarm deodorants, or in his case, maybe aftershave, toothpaste, shampoos. And these are all adulterated. They're all literally polluted with so many toxins. Triglycerin, for example, which is found in so many of these household items, and causes very severe reactions. So in particular, in his case, when we went through his whole life, basically, and changed so many of these product items and his food intake, over a period of, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks, he was walking into my office on his own and could feel a tremendous difference. And he said, okay, I am ready to go further.
Wow, I love it. That's remarkable, because from going from not being able to physically walk properly, unassisted, to feeling great, or at least being able to sufficiently walk, phenomenal, because 2 to 3 weeks is a short period of time. So that's pretty exciting when you hear that, because oftentimes we think that, oh, we'll never heal, we can never get better, or it's going to take a really, really long time. But I think that if we start to investigate and really, take action to do what we can to improve our brain health, through our environment, through the foods that we eat, I think we can really come a long way, fairly quickly, as evidenced in this particular case with your client. Now, having said that, clearly everybody is different, and your exposure to different things, may have
Exactly
severity, right? In terms
exactly.
of that. But I always find it interesting too, Dr. Sabina, that some people who have never had any sort of allergies all of a sudden start to develop that, and that could be through some of the things that you were talking about that have those chemical compounds that maybe didn't bother you if it's like once or twice, but when you're doing it for a year or years, you can really accumulate. And one of the things that sort of pops to mind when you were talking about, the deodorants, the daily things, right, that you're using. I started to think about perfume, right? Perfume or cologne for the guys, the gals, whatever, you're wearing perfume and cologne. And you may have been able to, wear that for a long time, for years. And all of a sudden, you're just so highly sensitive that you can't tolerate it anymore. And now it's the perfume or it's the cologne that's causing that. And there's so many cases like that, right? That we have to really start looking. And I think it's really important to pay attention to the body, pay attention to your intuition, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. So you are very intuitive in the sense that for you recognized the connection of, the foods that you eat, what's causing you to be tired, what's causing these chemical sensitivities, and you took a look at that. And I think that's really key for a lot of people. Take a look at the environment. And is there any other advice that you can give to get people to really start to take action, to pay attention, and what are some of the first steps for you that you would suggest?
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to mention, too, that when we're talking about these mental aberrations and mental health issues, I'm talking about even severe types of mental conditions, such as schizophrenia.
Wow. Whoa.
And catatonia.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. And I have, and in this particular case, and there was another case of an individual with schizophrenia. And what we were able to establish were two very major things. One, any food can cause a severe reaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. And of course, chemicals. Number two, there are always deficiencies. I'm talking about nutrient deficiencies,
Mm-hmm.
vitamin, mineral deficiencies that are going on at the same time.
So can like a nutrient deficiency itself cause a brain allergy, or is that just sort of an add-on to because of the other things?
Usually what happens, and this was found in the research, that, for example, vitamin B3 or niacinamide
Mm-hmm.
was one of the key nutrients that was lacking in many of the individuals who were experiencing schizophrenia.
Wow. So,
So
okay.
by obviously correcting that, along with some other vitamins, it corrected the issues that we're talking about, along with also making some major food changes. And I'd like to actually mention about 5 foods that I think will help your listeners are, who
Please.
are interested, of course, to
Yes.
make this change. But sugar is one of them. I'm talking about white refined sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a no-no.
And highly addictive, of course,
Number
right? Mm-hmm.
2, yes, highly addictive. And of course, there's tremendous amount of research today, even more so than when I was investigating this years ago, as to the direct, I would say, assault to the brain just by the ingestion of sugar.
Wow. Oh, fascinating.
Including, and there is a book actually called The Sugar Blues, which was all about how sugar causes depression.
Hmm. So fascinating, because I know that's one of the things that you talk about in your research as well, is the link between depression and brain allergies.
Yes, and it's sometimes a fine line, but the most important, whenever there is a feeling of, I would say, a mood shift, feeling depressed, feeling any type of mental conditions shift in any type of mental state, always look at what you're consuming and always look at what you're being exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can move into the next phase, which is, okay, what thoughts are you entertaining? Because this is a body, mind, and spirit approach. And I didn't mention that earlier, but it's so important because that was actually the 50% I'm talking about now, but the other 50% was the mind and spiritual approach or energy approach to my healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're looking at these foods, sugar is number 1. Number 2 is wheat. Okay,
So, and
wheat.
that would be the same as gluten, is that correct? Because
Correct.
obviously, there's so many people today that do suffer from gluten intolerances, allergies, or what have you, which, wheat is the big culprit
And
there.
what was found in the literature, and I found this fascinating, this was years ago, was the did with groups of schizophrenics, groups of depressed individuals in hospital settings. And what they found was that the number 1 food, when they actually tested it and actually took it away out of their diet, was wheat.
Wow. So, what are some of the foods,
And they
Dr.
did this in
Sabina?
trials. I won't go into all of the details of the studies, but what was significant was the outcome. When they actually removed wheat,
Mm-hmm.
after 2 to 3 weeks, it takes about 3 weeks. It takes about 21 days, sometimes 14 days, for the detox of that substance to be removed out of the body. So
Got it.
in this particular case, they did find that when wheat was removed, they found these individuals to be, oh, wow, it was like they came out of a sleep state.
Unbelievable. So, can you help us identify some of the foods that have wheat in it and some of those foods that we should stay away from? Because I think there's a lot of hidden sugars and hidden wheat in a lot of the foods that we eat. So, you think
Yes,
you're
actually,
doing good, but maybe not so much.
yes. Well, I discovered again with wheat, because wheat was one of my highly sensitive foods.
Hmm.
It's hidden in a lot of sauces.
Hmm.
And especially if you, at that time, in just even thinking to eat out in a restaurant, sauces obviously many times use flour to mix in their sauces, but it is also found in a lot. It was more so years ago, I think, because there's more awareness of gluten, that it is now slowly being taken out. It's being removed. Even in cosmetics, gluten has been actually used. It's surprising, but wheat gluten has been used in many different, and you can find it now on the labels, but it's used in many different products. And so if an individual is sensitive to the consumption of wheat, most often they are also sensitive to applying it on their body. Not 100%, but most often.
Right. So whether you ingest it or you apply it topically, it could still have, a negative effect and impact, the brain, in that capacity. All fascinating stuff. I can't wait to learn more. Stay with us, everyone. We're going to take a break and we will be back with Dr. Sabina De Vita and brain allergies here on Sauga 960. I'm Tania Kolar. You're listening to The Mindset Mentor. Welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar. Today, my special guest is Dr. Sabina De Vita, and it's truly a pleasure, Dr. Sabina, to have you on the show, talking about brain allergies, which I think is a very not misunderstood, but more unknown field for a lot of people, right? I mean, everybody knows allergies, but you think of the common, the runny nose, itchy, watery eyes, but not truly how it's actually impacting the brain and the psychological and emotional impact that it has. So I'd love to talk more to you, about some of those causes. And if you could give us maybe some more, one-on-one experiences that you've had with your clients, and the impact it's had for them. And because it's fascinating that if you can take control of your environment and also the foods that you're ingesting, then you can truly enhance the quality of your life and improve overall, not just, brain health, but overall health. And I think that's truly priceless.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Well, the first thought that comes to mind is, and I think this will be certainly helpful for everyone, is an elimination diet. And what does that mean? It means that you go through and look at what you're eating. And sometimes what I would do with my clients is I would have them write out what they have eaten in the last, say, 3 days, even snacks. Okay. And so once I look at that, I can pretty well tell just by what they're eating, okay, let's take this out of your diet. Sometimes it has ended up, the client looks at me and goes, well, what am I going to eat? Because they have been so, I would say, not only addicted, but so used to it. It becomes habitual to eat certain foods. And I'm thinking of another food item that I didn't mention, and I do need to mention this because dairy is a big culprit.
Dairy.
So are eggs.
So Dr. Sabina.
So number one is sugar, wheat, dairy.
Dairy. Okay.
Okay, those are major culprits. So are eggs. Eggs can be a major culprit as well, and corn. Corn, like I said, they're the 5. There's usually about 5 to 6 that I look for. Corn is a very, very, that was actually one of my worst reactions with mood swings was to corn.
Wow. So,
and corn is found in so many different foods. So you do need cornstarch. How many foods have cornstarch in them? Right? Corn syrup. So people need, number 1, elimination diet. Number 2, read your labels. Read your labels.
Yeah, it's good to be knowledgeable, to understand, what you are putting in your body, because everything that you are ingesting is going to impact the body in some way, sometimes positively and sometimes, negatively. You'll have some adverse effects, and it's really key to have that awareness. So in terms of reading a label, what are some of the things that we should be watching out for?
Well, first of all are the foods, the 5 basic foods that I've mentioned. If there's any of those foods mentioned, especially packaged food, first of all, I don't recommend packaged food to begin with.
Highly full of preservatives.
Fresh food.
Yes.
Fresh fresh and organic foods.
Okay.
Definitely. In terms of recommendations, fresh organic foods as much as possible. So reading the label, but most people still will, want to buy certain items, say crackers. Please read the label, because you'll be surprised as to the extent and culprits actually in that package.
I think if you look at a label, in fact, you might want to go grab a label and just kind of study it. If you look at a label and there's a lot of things on there that you can't even pronounce or you've never heard of, that's probably
Avoid
a good
it.
idea. You don't want it, right?
Put it back on the shelf.
Yeah, good advice. I love it.
Absolutely. If you
Okay.
can't pronounce it and it's not something you recognize, put it back. And that's the same with cleaners, dishwashing detergents, shampoos, toothpaste, all of that. I mean, we just don't have time to go into the extent of toxins. And that, of course, is mentioned in my book, Vibrational Cleaning. It is devoted to going through some of the 12 to about 20 basic culprits found in, these are chemicals, pollutants found in substances and also in foods, but mostly in our everyday personal care items.
Wow. So, I'm curious because obviously if we've ingested food that, we are sensitive to or we're allergic to, we can have a lot of symptoms, whether it's gas, bloating, and all that kind of stuff. Like physical bloating you can see, right? So what about a chemical sensitivity? Does that actually cause bloating?
It can, absolutely. Absolutely. Because now it gets into the whole chemistry of what happens with your liver, which is a filter, and the kidneys. But now your body goes into overload. And you did mention this earlier, Tania, about the accumulation. We call it body burden. Okay. And so what happens to the system is it just becomes so burdened that it's just that one little piece, one little morsel, that one just tad, and massive reaction.
That's you right over the edge. Yeah.
Like now it's summertime and people do like to be outdoors, and let's face it, they'll want to use something to protect themselves for two things. One, the sun, right? Sunscreens. Have you read your label? Read the label. Number two, what about insects? Insect repellents. Danger, danger, danger. Like I say, I don't have time to talk further about those, but reading labels is critical. It's critical.
Yeah.
And going for more healthy, natural formulas, and they're available today.
They are available.
They are so available today.
Yeah, you can even make some of your own concoctions, right? There's
correct, and that's what
online.
Exactly. And I again I do actually have chapters about that in the book I mentioned earlier, Vibrational Cleaning, and the second book, Vibrational Cleaning Guidebook.
Fantastic. And again, you can take a look at vibrationalcleaning.com, or you can also take a look at Dr.Sabina DeVita's website at devitawellness.com. And we only have a few minutes left, so I want to talk to you, Dr. Sabina, about some of the essential oils that you used in your own healing and also as a recommendation for your clients to, eliminate some of the brain allergies or certainly the symptoms of brain allergies.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of my passions today. I do talk a lot about the essential oils, and particularly one company and I have a history with this company because back 20 years ago, I was so concerned about finding organic and pure quality and having the ability to visit the farms. That's the extent that I went to with this company, and it's called Young Living. And so I was extremely concerned about what I was going to use now on my body because I knew my reactions. So in sourcing them, what I discovered was truly a world that changed my life. It changed my life. And I just have so much to talk about when I talk about these particular oils. But Young Living actually came out with a whole cleaning product. Actually, they have a kit of cleaning products. So it now today we have for household cleaners, we have an item that is a dish detergent, laundry detergent, all made with a combination of 5 oils with other natural substances to give us a chemical-free, plant-based product.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. And I think it's certainly worth it when you take a look at the overall health benefits, and the implications that it has, of course, on the body. And again, that is all equated to our quality of life, for ourselves and our family, anybody in that environment. So it is important to look at that. So just to, recap, we talked about the 5 food culprits to stay away from. So the sugar, the wheat, the dairy, eggs, and corn. Read those labels and make sure that you're not ingesting things that you don't know what they are or you can't pronounce them. You don't want them, right? As Dr. Sabina DeVita says, put it back on the shelf. And so, and then the alternate is, of course, or the remedy is to do an elimination diet, see what is causing those symptoms, stay away from what is causing distress, which of course distress leads to dis-ease in the body, which leads to all kinds of issues. But also, again, using essential oils to really help facilitate that healing process and to move forward in a way that will not continually put yourself in an environment where you're going to be impacting your health negatively. So are there any key essential oils that you think are the number one best oils to incorporate?
Well, the combination oils that is used in our cleaning products is called thieves.
Okay.
Thieves, thieves, which, like I said, is actually a blend of 5 specific oils, which constitutes lemon, rosemary, eucalyptus, clove, and cinnamon. So we have that in that product. Then we also have individual oils. Lavender is a fabulous single oil to use for so many purposes. And also lemon oil. Lemon, as I think many know, lemon is a wonderful cleaner. And it's a deodorizer, so it has so many uses, and I do again describe that in my book and also on my website. So because there are just so many uses for these oils, but certainly lemon and lavender and peppermint would be the go-to oils as far as singles. And then also with the thieves combination, we do have some others such as purification or Melrose, Melaleuca. These are all fabulous oils to use, again, for household cleaning, but also for other purposes. And with Young Living, we have oils we can actually add as food enhancers.
I was just going to ask you, if we can ingest some of the essential oils. So that would be obviously specific.
Lemon and peppermint, absolutely.
Beautiful. It's interesting to know that, it's really going back to ancient times, that the sensorial experience, aromatherapy, the oils, and the benefits, because even, oils are equated to how we feel, right? How that sensorial experience, it can take us, it can elevate us down, right? From a heightened state. Lavender is very calming, right? They say. And interesting, something that I learned recently, that peppermint is used for, or can be used for, a replacement to a insecticide, right? So if you're using, insect spray to, keep the bugs away, maybe try peppermint oil instead as a natural, tool.
Absolutely.
If you have that sensitivity, you're going to, be inhaling that, even though you may be spraying it outdoors, you're still, getting some of that, into the system. So really, really interesting, phenomenal advice and expertise. And unfortunately, we are out of time. So Dr. Sabina DeVita, I want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing not only your wealth of knowledge, but also your personal experience and how you have been able to heal your body and your brain by, implementing the strategies that you've shared with us, and going from a state where, you were uncomfortable in your own home to now thriving and helping others thrive and, get that better health is phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I just like to leave everyone with this one final thought that whatever we do to the environment, we are doing to ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah,
We are the environment.
yeah. And I think if we all can just be a little bit more cognizant of that, right? Do our part. And then as a whole, collectively, we can continue to thrive. So thank you for that beautiful last bit of advice and beautiful words of wisdom. And we are out of time here on the Mindset Mentor. But remember the 5 culprits that Dr. Sabina DeVita has shared with you. So if you do find that you're experiencing brain allergies, you've got that sort of brain fog, you can't remember things, try eliminating sugar, try eliminating the wheat, the dairy, the eggs, and the corn from your diet and see what happens. It's absolutely worth trying to do what we can to live a beautiful quality of life. And remember that your mindset is like a muscle that needs to be strengthened and conditioned. So continue to work out your mindset and tune in next Tuesday at 1 p.m. for the next Mindset